Hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on our beautiful new earth, and welcome to our amazing event here. And we are doing the Aqualorian, the Ancient Tibetan Secrets of the Great Sage, connecting to the immortal soul light, the immortal body. Oh, yes, wonderful. And it is Halloween, so happy Halloween. So we'll enjoy being on the cusp of a new moon and the veil being thin while we do this first day of this event. All right, so welcome. And yeah, I'll do a little introduction here for anybody that is new that is coming into this work. All right, so I'm Sherry. I'm based here in Sausalito, outside of San Francisco, and I work primarily in the Akashic Enlightenment field, which is connecting to the Akashic records and the Book of Truth for your spiritual awakening, self-realization, or self-enlightenment. And we use this dimensional field to open up certain dimensional consciousness connections that assist us with our ascension process. This is somewhat like, or is another version of a shamanic journey. So we will be entering into a higher brainwave consciousness and connecting to our spirit teachers and guides and allowing them to bring in what we are ready to receive for our awakening and spiritual evolution. So in today's session, and I often work with the Aqualorians. So the Aqualorians are a ninth dimensional, ninth density frequency of interdimensional beings that I met in Mount Shasta starting in, is that 2018? Yeah, 2018. And I've been working with them over the years, and they have been attuning me to the Aqualorian crystal and light healing. So as the attunements that they give me, I then teach these frequencies, and they work on connecting to healing on all dimensions of healing. So the physical, the spiritual, the karmic and the causal, the emotional, the intellectual, astral, all levels of healing. And this last year, so I go to Mount Shasta every year. And this last year, I was attuned to the immortal soul light. And the immortal soul light is connecting to the immortal body. So the immortal body is, of course, the body that is more or less our soul, but it is the, you could say, the body that comes with us to each incarnation, right? And this allows us to have a graceful transition out of this incarnation and take with us what we have with this immortal body to the next incarnation if we incarnate, or it stays with us in our immortal beingness. And the more that we connect to this level of being, the greater we are able to dissolve or detach our attachment, dissolve our attachment, or detach from our identification with this incarnation and this body of this incarnation. So, as part of this, we will also be connecting to ancient Tibet. And this is, of course, where the immortal body is most known, right? These ancient Asian cultures. And I was called two different times here. So the year prior, connecting to Mount Shasta with the Aqualorians for levels 8, 9, and 10 of the Aqualorian crystal and light healing, I knew that the immortal body was going to be connected to this year, 2024. So they were already building up to attuning me for this. And in May of this year, 2024, I was guided to down south to Encinitas, which is a vortex location that I often visit due to the self-realization center that is there. And they built the center there based on the vortex energy that is there. So the whole area is very, you could say, attuned or more dialed in than an ordinary place that would not have a vortex. And while I was down there, I was actually guided to a shop, but they actually bring in a lot of items from Bali as well as Tibet. And they had just the day prior set up an entire gallery of items that they had brought over from Tibet. And these included a lot of sacred spiritual items. So while I was walking through there, I received a big download of all the energy from all the sacred objects that they had brought over. And one of these objects, let me take it down here, is this Purba. And this is like a crystal wand. You could say it's like their version of a Vogel, right? We use the Vogel wands. And they are used by the shamans there for deep connection to spirit, as well as a clarity of understanding in your connection to spirit. So they had a lot of these tools there, as well as something that they had. They're like little metallic shrines, like little Buddhas, and then they had a bunch of other sacred objects there. So the energy was very potent from these objects. So while you are in your Akashic Enlightenment, you're in a higher dimensional field. So if you go to a museum, I also did this when I visited the museum in Pennsylvania. They have the Egyptian exhibit, and you can just download from, I think they had a sarcophagus there, like a mummy, and just other sacred objects. So when you're in your Akashic Enlightenment, you're in a higher dimensional field, so it's easy to download higher spiritual knowledge and energy when you walk into a vortex or a place that has sacred items. You could do this in, maybe like the ancient and very long-term used churches that they have in Europe, right? There's very holy places there. So there, or if you go to other vortexes. So it's just allowing you to be in that higher dimensional field, which shifts your consciousness to then connect with the energy that is available there. And you bring this into your being. And then usually later, your intellectual consciousness will unpack it, or whatever higher knowledge came in will unpack in your dimensional field. So in this case, I got the download there while I was in the Encinitas area. And then this was, I guess, end of September, a shamanic peer of mine was traveling through Tibet and doing an online retreat. And so I was able to then, through that online retreat, connect to the energies directly there. And so that just kind of finalized what started back in May, the download that I got with these sacred objects that were there. So while I visited Tibet with the astral plane, so again, this is more or less a shamanic journey, and you are connecting to the sacred grounds of these ancient places that have had a lot of worship and teaching in connected to higher spirituality and higher consciousness. So any place that is like that, it gets attuned to the frequencies and builds even more. But one thing that I saw was going inside, my guides brought me inside one of the mountains there. And I first off saw the template for the Dalai Lama. And this is the energetic record that the Dalai Lama consciousness incarnates through, which I'm sure their shamans and teachers there, this is how they're able to know who is incarnated as the next Dalai Lama. They're able to access that dimensional field and consciousness that is available there. And, you could say we have that for Buddha, Ascended Master Jesus, someone like Yogananda, but it's in the earth dimensional field. Okay. But Tibet has its own because it's, such a sacred place, and there's so many that are working on spirituality there. the other thing is, I also met some beings there that were very similar to the Aqualorians, and they reside inside of the mountain there. And it is similar to Mount Shasta. But these beings, they had more of like a white, yellowish glow to them. And my understanding was is that they were there before any humans were. And the consciousness that they bring is what then emanates through the land in Tibet. So that's what makes it a holy and sacred ground there, is the higher dimensional beings that are already there. And of course, there are vortexes there as well, just like in Sedona or Mount Shasta or Encinitas. So we'll be traveling astrally to that dimensional field in Tibet, and then we will be working with the Aqualorians and the Immortal Soul Light to bring in our 5 transmissions for this series. So they will be 30-minute transmissions, and we'll be connecting and specifically running the new Immortal Soul Light while in the vortex, astrally traveling to the vortex in Tibet. Okay, so that will amplify the frequencies. Even though we're not there physically, in shamanism, once you have more or less visited a place in the physical realm, you can use that as a portal to go into the spiritual world. So in this case, it's kind of like a piggybacking, right? My shamanic peer was there physically, anchoring in the physical connection, and then connecting us to then be able to connect in deeper, so that you could say our spiritual dimensional world or our shamanic world has now been opened to be able to access, use that as an access point. Okay, very common. We use like trees or caves. You could even use a lake. These can all be entrances to the what is called non-ordinary reality. All right, so I'll be doing what's considered a middle world shamanic journey while in Akashic Enlightenment. I'm just remembering I've also done this with Hawaii and connecting to Haleakala, Mount Haleakala in Maui for healing, and then as well as to Kauai. They're very different vortex energies there on each of the islands. They each has its own energies and properties. But that's another place that I have connected astrally to connect to the dimensional portal through the vortex that is available there. And of course, I visited both of those places myself, so I am able to then teleport or astrally travel through them to their consciousness that they are opening the doorway to. So, yes, so in this case, right, you could say connecting to the frequencies in the Encinitas vortex while connecting to the Tibetan physical objects that are there. This then starts to open the dimensional field. And then it was finalized. I actually got to visit there through the shamanic experience that my peer offered. So now we will put it all together. Okay, for our 30-minute energy transmission here, I'll open up the dimensional field. We will travel dimensionally to Tibet and connect there. I'm not sure if we're going to connect with the beings. A human being that has been there is Babaji. Okay, so Babaji has already, of course, learned to transcend and has kept for us a form of his physical self in the astral realm that we can connect to, right? And so many spiritual seekers and teachers have connected to Babaji. Whenever it is time for you to meet him, he will appear. And I met him in Encinitas while at the self-realization meditation gardens. So I also work with him as a spirit teacher. So we'll see who decides to show up once we connect to Tibet. We may just be working with the Aqualorians. We may connect with the beings there. We may connect to Babaji or other beings. So we will see what is waiting for us and allow them to provide us the higher knowledge that we need at this time. The other important factor in all of this is we are at the top of the, you could say, the journey of the 16 years of Pluto in Capricorn. So when Pluto is finishing out a sign, its time in that sign, Pluto is a great transformer. And when it's finishing out its time in that sign, you're more or less at the top to get the last lessons, right? You've been through a lot. You're going to get the last knowledge and lessons that you've kind of maybe earned your way up to through transformation, things detaching in your life, things that maybe seem like they're falling apart, but it's really your consciousness shifting to what is more in your truth of alignment of being. Okay, so that's something also to keep in mind. The time at which we are doing this is already an elevated time. I'm sure everybody is feeling it in one way or another. And whether it's personal or in the collective, and you're being of service for the collective, or if it's personally in your life. But this is going to be transitioning on November 19th, when Pluto will finally go into Aquarius after a 16-year journey, and we'll be entering into a new 20-year journey. So my sense is that what we bring through now, the consciousness that we bring through now, is going to be related to that kind of reaching the mountaintop, so to speak, to receive that greater enlightenment that will assist us on this next part of the journey. And where better to go than Tibet, right? It's one of the most conscious frequencies of our planet, right? It's such a holy place. All right. So for these sessions, you of course welcome to open your own Akashic Enlightenment if you have the Akashic Enlightenment prayer. If you don't have it, you can go ahead and get that in the Akashic Enlightenment book. And I'm more or less saying that for anybody who's not live. I know all of you joining live, you're very adept in Akashic Enlightenment, and you have worked with the Aqualorians. So that will also increase the field. Okay, that all of you are already deeply connected to Akashic Enlightenment. So I think we will go ahead and start with a little meditation, okay, just to help us ground and center in before I open the space for the 30-minute energy transmission, okay? So you can go ahead and open up your Akashic Enlightenment now, and then I will go ahead and guide you through the meditation. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to do that if you haven't done that yet. So I will also be using the Purba from Tibet to also do the transmission portion with the combined with the unconditional love Volva wand. We'll be using both. All right.